Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Tuesday, it's October 1st, it is 2024. We have a 4-game MLB slate to talk about here. We got some wild card games, some wild card action, riding solo, but definitely had to talk some baseball for the wild card round. Interesting. I got exactly what I wanted on Monday. If you remember back to the Friday podcast, I talked, Will and I were talking about how I wanted both games to really matter for all three teams. And they did. And I think that was fun to watch. Crazy game one. Game two is kind of quiet. Biggest news I think that came out of Monday baseball was Chris Sale not likely going to be available here for the wild card round. That's a huge hit for the Atlanta Braves, who has just had a rough season when it comes to injuries. Wanted to just, take a second to say rest in peace, Pete Rose. I know I don't bring up a lot of stuff like this on the podcast, but Pete Rose, man, I watched a lot of Pete Rose. My dad, huge Reds fan, so rough. But yeah, I mean, hope Charlie Hustle, yeah, career hit leader, man, just an incredible career outside of the betting on baseball stuff. Followed all season, first time being here. I'm a D-backs fan, so today sucked. Let's get some cash. Hey, listen, I'm a Dolphins fan, so I feel you. Today did suck. Yeah, what a man, Diamondbacks, one game. And I mean, anytime you miss it by like one game, you're always going to be like, hey, this game. You could always like pinpoint one game. You're like, man, we just kind of gave it away in that game, right? Like you're always going to feel that way. And, Diamondbacks, Diamondback fans are feeling that way. Yeah, Dikembe Mutombo too. Rough day for the sports world. Brain cancer, right? Yeah, that just sucks. I'm actually not that tired. So I was very tired yesterday. Gosh, man, NASCAR weekends with NFL and baseball going, it was a lot. So I slept like 9 hours last night, and that's the most sleep I think I've had in like 3 months. So actually, I'm not that tired. I started the stream late. I was patiently waiting for some of the pitching news to come out. Like I was going to do this podcast like 3 hours ago and go to bed early tonight, but we were, just waiting for who the Mets were going to pitch and who the Brewers were going to pitch. They didn't announce a pitcher. And then the Braves still really haven't technically announced a pitcher, but I was just going to get this started, so we'll see who the Braves are going to pitch. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. What's up, chat? Man, a lot of people hanging out at midnight here. Hope everyone is having a fantastic Monday night, Tuesday morning, depending on where you live. And let's get started. We're going to talk some baseball. I love playoff baseball. I've talked about this all the time. Absolutely love this time of the year. October 1st definitely starts that time where you got football in full swing, NASCAR playoffs going, and baseball playoffs. And I love playoff baseball. So what am I going to do about my Fins? Oh, man. I don't know. As a Miami fan, you expect everything to go to crap. But man, it's been tough to watch Miami this year. So I don't know what to think about Miami. We have so much speed and talent. I wish they would just kind of go all in on a trade for a quarterback. Our season's not over yet, but yeah, man. Yeah. All right, let's get into it. We're going to start with Detroit at Houston, 2:30 p.m. Eastern start time on the main slate on FanDuel and DraftKings with this game right here. So if you're wanting to play the full 4 games and not the showdown stuff, I love showdown football. I talk about this from time to time, but I love showdown football slates. I do not love showdown baseball. It's just something that I can't get excited about playing showdown baseball. I know FanDuel contests are somewhat small, so I'll probably just be playing on DraftKings today. All right, Detroit, Houston, 6.5 total. Houston, a 155 favorite. We got Scoble against Valdez in this one. Obviously, Tarek Scoble has just been lights out all season. Just absolutely incredible to watch. Looking at this Houston lineup, obviously Altuve, Bregman, Diaz, Pena, they're tough against left-handed pitching. It's really tough because it's a tough matchup, but every matchup is tough. It's playoff baseball at this point. So Scoble, 30.2% Ks on the season. His walk rate has been phenomenal. His strikeout stuff has been phenomenal. His swinging strike rate, whiff rate, just everything for Tariq has been just incredible all year. He's done it against tough teams. He's done it against bad teams. Obviously, I like him in this matchup. I would probably rank him second today as far as pitchers are concerned, behind the guy on the other side of this game. Valdez is my favorite pitcher on the slate today. I know he kind of struggled last time out. I talked about it on the podcast. I remember talking about this on the podcast. Seattle has been much better against left-handed pitching than they have been against right-handed pitching. And he just struggled in that matchup. He's been pitching fantastic recently. And Detroit is much better against right-handed pitching than they are against left-handed pitching. Valdez, his strikeout, his ground ball rate, the ability to pitch deep into these games. I assume that he gets a full leash here, goes 100-plus pitches if he's pitching well. Again, a lot of this lineup, a lot of the power in this lineup is left-handed. Kerry Carpenter, Parker Meadows, Riley Green, just a lot of lefties. And, they're going to get Vierling, Perez, Torkelson in there. But overall, I think this matchup definitely favors Framber. So, like I said, he's my top pitcher on this slate. Absolutely love this spot for him. As far as Detroit bats, you got to play some uncomfortable bats. You're not necessarily stacking as much in postseason baseball. You're building out lineups. You just kind of like hitters at each position. More, I do anyway. More like 10 years ago DFS baseball where, before stacking became this amazing tool and we were just kind of playing positions more than anything else. But what did we know 10 years ago? Whew, man. Anyway, not to get too sidetracked on the past. I don't love a lot here. Torkelson, he's been great against lefties this year. I obviously have a little bit of interest in him. He's more of a fly ball hitter, so he definitely benefits. And I wouldn't even necessarily say he benefits from a ground ball pitcher, but he definitely could take advantage of a ground ball pitcher. My issue with Torkelson is they have pinch hit for him a lot. It's the playoffs. It's the wild card. It's best of three. If he gets into a situation here where a good right-handed pitcher comes in and this game is close, then, Torkelson probably getting the hook. And, you got to factor that in a little bit because every at-bat matters when you only have 4-game slates. I think I'm not going to play a lot of Detroit in this spot. Yordan Alvarez, or going to the Houston side, Yordan Alvarez, very questionable still to be back for this series. I don't know if it necessarily matters in this spot. Lefty would be a really tough spot for him. As far as the Houston bats are concerned, Scoville has just been incredible this year. It's really hard for me to sit here and pinpoint Houston bats that I like. If I was going to play some Houston bats, it'd be Altuve, it'd be Bregman, it'd be Diaz, it'd be Pena. That's who I would be attacking here on the Houston side of things. And again, this is probably my least favorite game for hitters on this 4-game slate. So I'm not going to go out of my way and try to force hitters in this game. I like both pitchers a lot. Like I said, number 1 and number 2 for me as far as pitchers on this slate. So I think that I'm definitely going to prefer playing the pitchers, even playing the pitchers against themselves here and just kind of eliminating the potential to get 2 wins because I like these 2 guys so much. Kansas City at Baltimore is where we go next. 7 total in this game. Baltimore 160 favorite. Cole Reagans against Corbin Burns in this one. Starting here with Cole Reagans, we've seen Baltimore hit or miss down the stretch. Very hit or miss, I feel like, is the nicest way to put it. We know how good they are they forget how good they are sometimes, I feel like. But Cole Reagan's great season for him. 29% Ks, 31% over the last month. His ISO's way down. His WOBA's way down. He's been pitching great. To finish out the season, he really hasn't shown like as much dominant strikeout upside, but I mean, only 1 home run allowed in his last 5 starts. And I mean, the strikeouts at least 6 in 5 straight. So good last month of the season for him. Still struggling a little bit with fly balls to right-handed hitters and not generating as much ground balls. But I mean, Cole Reagan's tough matchup against Baltimore. But again, it's the wild card. It's the playoffs. Every matchup is tough for everybody. So slightly interested in some Cole Reagans. All right, and probably a little bit more than slightly. I'm interested to see like projected ownership between like Scoble, Valdez, Reagans, even Corbin Burns on the other side of this game, Freddie Peralta potentially, and Michael King. Like, I mean, we have a lot of good pitchers. It's the first set of games for the wild card round. So I think Cole Reagan's very much in play. Corbin Burns on the other side of this game, he finished the season super strong. Pitched really well against the Yankees. Pitched really well against Detroit twice. That's not saying too much, but Detroit has been a really strong baseball team over the last 2.5 months. I don't know what to really expect. I don't know if we really want to like bet on Corbin Burns going out there and having this like huge strikeout upside. But Kansas City, if we look at the last like month for this team in general, they have really struggled. Vinny Pasquantino is close. They said that there's a chance that he gets activated and is back, but I mean, it was a fractured thumb. Who knows how good he's going to be, even if he is back. I don't know if that helps or hurts this lineup. So, I mean, some slight interest in Burns. Again, like, it's a 4-game slate, and all these pitchers are really good at throwing baseballs outside of maybe 1 or 2. So, yeah, I'm interested in taking some shots on Burns. And it's more of taking shots on Burns because, like, Kansas City really down the stretch has not been the best baseball team. If we look at their last 30 days here, as far as just facing right-handed pitching, they have been awful, like just bad. I mean, Bobby Witt continues to be really good, but like Salvador Perez down the stretch, 71 ISO, Renfroe, 0 ISO, DeJong, 0 ISO, Pham, 141 ISO, 31% Ks. So they just really haven't had a ton of strikeout upside, or like, I mean, they have a ton of strikeout upside. They haven't had a ton of power. So I think that's where you were kind of looking at saying, hey, maybe this is a spot where you target Kansas City because of how much they've struggled, you know, down the stretch. So I don't mind potentially taking a shot. I'm sure, for what it's worth, I'm sure everybody in the AL is very happy that Kansas City got in instead of Seattle. Like, you didn't want to face Seattle's pitching staff in baseball or in postseason baseball, I feel like. All right. So yeah, I mean, both pitchers in play. As far as the bats are concerned, obviously Bobby Witt, one of the top hitters talent-wise on the slate. Both shortstops in this game are way above every other shortstop on the slate, maybe outside of Lindor. Can't necessarily say like way above because, I mean, Lindor is very good. Be interesting to see what Roth has for weather in this game. I know there's a couple places that I usually look at night before that have this game with some potential weather. So, I mean, if this is going to be a game where like weather comes in like the 3rd or 4th inning, that could be a huge thing. Like an hour delay in the 3rd or 4th inning, that could be big for both offenses. So watch that. But yeah, I'm a little down on the Kansas City bats in this spot. I like to target home runs against Corbin Burns. That's the biggest thing for him. Like, he's a guy that definitely lets up some home runs, and he lets them up in bunches. I don't necessarily hate maybe like a 3-man stack with Perez and seeing if Pasquantino's back. But I'm a little concerned about Pasquantino even being in the lineup. MJ Melendez has just been awful down the stretch. So Garcia's been awful. Like Grossman's been awful. I mean, it's again, you're going to get hyped up to play playoff baseball, but on the flip side of that, like man, Kansas City has really struggled. As far as the Baltimore bats here, like I mean, obviously you can always take shots on Henderson, even lefty. He's just so incredibly talented. Rutschman, Westberg, I assume both of those guys hit up towards the top of the order. You got Mountcastle with some power against right or against left-handed pitching. It'd be interesting to see if they DH James McCann. I would assume that he probably cracks the lineup here. Mateo has been somebody that's been really good against left-handed pitching this season. Santander, obviously, he's someone that you could pay up for. He has power from the right side of the plate. So you're going to get some potential value here from this team. We'll see what the lineup looks like. There's obviously going to be some pinch hit risk if they do hit some of these righties in there. But yeah, I mean, more interested in Baltimore than Kansas City. But again, I mean, it's not like Cole Reagans is a bad pitcher. All right, Mets at Brewers, 7.5 total. Milwaukee, a 135 favorite. Severino against Freddie Peralta. I mean, tough day for the Mets. They played 2 games on Monday, travel to Milwaukee here, and, you know, have to play in this wild card game. I hate writing down Baltimore names, all long last names. It's funny. Yeah, I mean, Severino, he's not my favorite pitcher by any means. I do, however, think like Severino potentially going to have pretty low ownership on this slate. He's one of my favorite spots to pick on today. Milwaukee, they run, they have upside. You can kind of mix and match this like 3-man stack to get speed and power. Adames probably my favorite. I really like lefties against Severino. He struggled with lefties all year and even more so recently. So Terang, if Jake Bauers cracks the lineup, I don't hate that. I guess I forgot to talk about Peralta. I'll come back to the hitters in just a second. I got ahead of myself. I do that sometimes. It happens to the best of us. But overall, probably not playing a lot of Severino in this spot. He's going to be somebody I'm going to pick on. Freddie Peralta, I'm probably going to pick on Peralta a little bit as well. And it's just because like all 4 of those pitchers in the first 2 games are so good. I'm not saying that Peralta is not good. We got to play hitters somewhere. So Peralta, down the stretch, he's really struggled with command. If you're struggling with command against a team like the Mets, they can punish you. So that's one of the reasons I don't necessarily love Peralta. I think that some of these other pitchers have a higher ceiling. He does typically get a long leash, which is great. But yeah, I mean, the right-handed power has been his issue this season, and they have a lot of it. So let's talk about Mets bats. I mean, obviously Lindor, somebody I like, but Vientos and Pete Alonso are the 2 guys that I wrote down and circled. Peralta's really struggled with right-handed power this year. 205 ISO, 340 WOBA. Over the last month, 415 ISO, 450 WOBA against right-handed hitters. Like down the stretch, his hard hit rate is at like 75% over the last 30 days against righties. So obviously, very concerned with that. His whiff rate and stuff, very similar. He's just getting hit very hard. So that has a lot to do probably with location of pitches and stuff. And like I said, his command down the stretch has really, really been struggling. I mean, he's had at least 2 walks, I think, in like 14 of his last 15 games. And that's not something you necessarily want to see. So really like the spot for Vientos and Pete Alonso, especially now that like the Mets are on the road. So they're in a much better ballpark for hitting. So yeah, I like the top half of the Mets lineup. There was one other name. Oh, Alvarez. Like if Alvarez cracks the lineup today, he's a cheap punt catcher, righty, with a little bit of power. And again, Peralta's been struggling with right-handed. So I think that like if you want a cheap catcher alert, Alvarez, that guy. Milwaukee, on the other side of this game, I kind of already started to talk about it, but I like their speed power upside here. Bryce Terang, if he hits leadoff, have a lot of interest in him. Like I mentioned, Jake Bauers, a lot of interest in Bauers. If he cracks the lineup today, which I assume he cracks the lineup over Hoskins today, but maybe they play Hoskins. Like I said, a lot of interest in Terang. A lot of interest in Adames because it gets me off of those two top-end shortstops that I think a lot of people are going to play. Even Lindor, like top 3 shortstops. So I think Adames could potentially fly a little under the radar today, which I think is great. I like Mitchell. I assume Mitchell will be in the lineup. I like lefties against Severino. Frelick is banged up right now, so I assume that Mitchell cracks the lineup. And he's another guy that like has some stolen base upside. He's been running a lot more recently as well, so we'll see if he's in there. I think that's it. Obviously we'll see like if there's anybody else that cracks the lineup. Trio is always someone I like as well. But yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting. Like they've had Isaac Collins in the lineup here a little bit down the stretch. I don't think they'd play him today. He's minimum salary, and he's another guy that can run with a little bit of pop. His home run upside is not great. His stolen base upside is not great, but it'd be interesting to see if he's in the lineup because potentially gives us a punt on a 4-game slate. And we're not going to have many of those in the playoffs. You're going to have to build a lot more balanced type lineups. You're not going to get a lot of those like really, really cheap bats anymore. Yeah, and like Yeezy said, Yeezy in chat, like we've stacked the Brewers all year. Why not stop? Like we're not stopping, right? All right, we're gonna finish it out. Atlanta at San Diego. There is a lineup for this game. It's 7. Padres are a 155 favorite. We have no idea who's Atlanta going to start. They threw out a few names here. One of them I thought was really interesting. They threw out like Ian Anderson to start in this one, and I mean this guy hasn't pitched in the bigs in a long time. So who knows if that's even a real thing or they're just kind of trying to throw off. Bryce Elder was another person that was thrown out as like a potential starter, or Smith Schroer. But I mean, he's a reliever, so that would be just like a full on, we're going to start with an opener type of situation. I'll say this. It doesn't, unless for some reason Chris Sale pitches, which it doesn't sound like he will. Unless Chris Sale pitches, I have no interest in whoever starts for Atlanta. I'll just say that. Whoever starts for Atlanta, don't care. If it's, I mean, assuming it's going to be Bryce Elder or Ian Anderson, San Diego's the top top type of situation on the slate. So is Smith Schroer stretched out? I didn't know if he was stretched out, so that's my bad. So I guess he is stretched out. He hasn't pitched in the bigs since May, right? Yeah, he hasn't pitched in the bigs since May. We'll see. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. San Diego's an awesome offense that doesn't strike out, so doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter who's pitching. It's not a spot that I'm going to target for Atlanta. There's too many good pitchers on the slate, and this is just not one of those situations to target. As far as Michael King, I have a lot of interest in Michael King today. Yeah, Ozzy Albies being back in this lineup helps this lineup for sure. No doubt about it. But there's still plenty of strikeouts in this lineup. They still are not the Atlanta Braves of the beginning of the season. Michael King has had plenty of strikeout upside. And San Diego, when their pitchers are pitching well, they let them go. So I think this is a spot we could see Michael King hit over 100 pitches. I think he's going to be one of the lower owned pitchers that have some good upside. So if I'm doing like a ranking system, I'm definitely ranking Scoble, Reagans, Valdez over King, but I think I would put King over Burns today. I'd like King. I might end up playing King in like a single entry to make my Valdez teams a little different, but I think this is just one of those spots where the dude's pitched great all year. Like, I didn't expect this. I mean, he He's been great. He had over 200 strikeouts this season. He's had some rough starts from time to time. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, subpar 3 ERA, and I'm not an ERA guy, but I mean that's a really strong season in any sense when you're throwing as many innings as he did. 27% Ks, 27.6, 12% swinging strike rate all year. Kept his barrel rate under 7% at 6.1. All the advanced stats definitely suggest like he had a good year. So yeah, I mean, in a matchup here against Atlanta, the scary Braves, I have interest in King, and I like his opportunity to pitch with a lead. And I talk about this as a former pitcher. I mean, when you're pitching with a lead, it's huge, right? Like you can just attack hitters differently. You're not afraid to give up that home run if you're in a tie game in the 6th or 7th. So pitching with a lead is such a different mindset. So I like Michael King. As far as the Atlanta bats, it's a 4-game slate, and I mean, sure, like Ozuna, Olsen, Soler, Harris, Albies would be my main targets here. Again, I'm probably doing more like I don't even know, like 3-3-2 type builds, 3-3-1-1 type builds. Like it's just gonna kind of. I haven't built any lineups for the slate yet. I was gonna do it tomorrow when we start getting lineups, obviously, but I won't full stack. I don't think anybody. If I was gonna full stack anybody, it'd be San Diego. So let's talk about them. I don't think it matters who pitches here, because it doesn't sound like it's going to be a lefty. Obviously, it'll probably be freed tomorrow, I would assume, Wednesday. But, I mean, Schwallenbach pitched on Tuesday, so he's out. So, I mean, yeah, like this is just one of those spots where you're just stacking I don't know if I necessarily stack, but this is one of those spots where you're just playing. You're just playing them. Like you're doing the thing here. And like the other thing you have to think about is the Atlanta Braves just played 2 games of we have to win baseball. They used a ton of bullpen in those 2 games against the Mets on Monday. Why are we not stacking San Diego? Why are we not playing a ton of San Diego? So I mean, that's where my mindset is. If I was going to stack a team today, it'd be the Padres. They should be the highest owned team on the slate. They might not be, but I would assume they are. But they are the late game, right? You're not going to have a Padres lineup at 2 o'clock. Potentially not even going to have a Padres lineup at 4 o'clock when lineups lock for those 2 early games. So maybe their ownership stays down a little bit more than it should. I'm not saying that it should stay down a ton, but maybe their ownership stays down just a little bit more than it should. But yeah, Jackson Merrill, Cronenworth, Machado, Tatis, absolutely love the Padres here. Like I said, if I was going to play like a 3 or 4 man from anybody today, it'd probably be San Diego. Maybe I'll make a little San Diego Milwaukee stack or something along those lines. So I could see myself building a little stacky stack like that, assuming that Jake Bauers gets the start. He's cheap, and that stack actually comes together pretty good. I just built it, so maybe I do that here. But yeah, I mean, like this spot a lot for San Diego. Not going to play the morning grind game. There's not, pricing definitely not going to permit the morning grind game. I do appreciate everyone hanging out with me live. It's been a fun season. We're going to keep grinding some baseball. Going to talk baseball on Wednesday tomorrow. So tomorrow night, Tuesday night, probably around 10:30, 11 p.m. Eastern. And then Thursday we'll do the NFL show. Probably take Friday off. There's not a lot going on Friday as far as baseball or anything else. If I do anything Friday, maybe I'll preview the Saturday games if we have like starting pitchers for Saturday's games, and I would probably do it sometime during the day on Friday, because I mean that Saturday is the first day of the divisional series games, so maybe I'll do that on Friday. We'll see, and then just gonna kind of flow with it here. over the next week or two. So basketball is right around the corner. It'll be here before we know it. Maybe we'll talk some NFL stuff. But overall, yeah, I could do a NASCAR free show on Friday, but it actually has there's a truck race on Friday, but without starting positions at Talladega, it doesn't really matter. So hope everyone has a fantastic Tuesday. I'll be back tomorrow breaking down Wednesday's slate. Make sure you do the good old-fashioned subscribe, turn on notifications so you can come hang out with us live as well. I did not do the morning grind game. Is there something on the morning grind game you guys want? Because, the pitching is kind of out because the pricing. How about I give out a home run I like? A home run I like. Let's do a home run I like. I will go Jackson Mural to hit a home run here against whoever starts for Atlanta. I like that a lot. Under 4K to get 2 hits. I'm going to go to my boy. I really hope Jake Bauers cracks the lineup today. Give me Jake Bauers. And then stack to score 6 or more runs. Just give me the Padres. I know it's a chalk. There was no player props up when I looked before I started. Maybe they're up. Let me see. Player props are tough for playoffs. I bet a lot of unders for playoff baseball just because people get pulled very fast if they're struggling. See, Valdez outs is really interesting here at 17.5. I will take the over on Framber's outs at 17.5. I think there's a good chance he hits the over on that number against Detroit. So give me Framber Valdez over 17.5 outs. You can get this on Bet365 at minus 105, and you can get it on DraftKings at minus 110, BetMGM at minus 110. Pulling up the Hard Rock to see what we got. Pitching strikeouts, pitching total outs, Framber minus 110. I'm going to bet it at minus 110. Again, I like this number for him. So that's what I like here for my bet for Tuesday. No 3-pick parlays for the playoffs. Hope everyone has a fantastic Tuesday. See everyone again tomorrow. Come hang out with us live. Let's talk some baseball.